I am Tony, right? We all know that part. I have a clicker. Who am I? I have some papers in the committee. I'm on the committee. There's more than that, probably. Well, yeah, I've kind of stopped doing many papers lately. But if you're going to read just one paper, those are the papers. You know what I really need? I need to see give me a minute here. I need to see my notes. All right. Those are my papers that were successful, that passed. And somewhere on there is the one about foo concept name. Is one of my favorite papers that passed because the committee kept putting it off and putting it off. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. And then one day, the concept proposal just changed to follow my paper. We never talked about my paper. It's like the Illuminati. It just changed. Yeah, just finally convinced somebody that they should change things. But if you're only going to read one of my papers, you should read those two, the pink ones. Bit entanglement, you can't beat that. I've gotten +1 from Bjarne. That's. Just wait. He actually spoke, this is in emails. He actually put words. Usually he just says +1. Nice rule of thumb. I was pretty happy about that one. And nicely put. Yeah. So I take those, I print them out at work, and I put them on my cubicle or whatever. And when people talk to me about stuff, I'm like, Bjarne, I said, Herb Sutter, right? Tony's code is righteous. I'm pretty sure he meant all my code ever, future code, past code. Yeah, I actually have this slide 3 times. It's really good slide. I just like to repeat it over and over again. Sean Perrin, if you don't know who Sean Perrin is, you should know who Sean Perrin is. Go watch all his talks. Not right now. He said, very true. Jonathan Frakes liked my tweet. Slow down. There's a better one yet. Hanna Dusukova liked my tweet. So that's me. And I have one question. No reason I'm asking this question. Who knows who Dr. Seuss is? Or better yet, who doesn't know who Dr. Seuss is? People don't know who Dr. Seuss is? This is the thing. I had this assumption that everyone knows who Dr. Seuss is, and then I, over time, realized it's a very North American-centric, English-centric assumption to make. But this is Dr. Seuss. It's the best books ever. If you want to, you're going to have kids someday, and you're going to raise your kids, and you think, I should teach my kids English somehow, Dr. Seuss books. Definitely. Anyhow, I've given this talk before, and I don't like giving the same talk over again, so I decided to change the talk. And I had this idea, and it's an awful idea. It's an awful, wonderful idea. So let's just get into it, right? So here's the overview. We'll have some slides. I'll be your guide. On the slides, there will be skeets. Not tweets anymore, skeets. Skeets and skeets on every beat. There will be graphs. Almost half the slides are graphs. Yes. Yes, most of them are just for laughs. Yeah. Some slides are for laughs and will go by fast. Other topics will last and last, going on longer with things to ponder. Okay? Sometimes I talk about lock-free and atomics, which some might find quite abomic. While other talks are more high level. This was a haiku. That was the abstract for that talk. So I do just some kind of high-level talks. Today's talk is a bit disheveled and will leave you quite bedeviled. And I want to change the way you think about programming. Nothing less, I hope. All right. So I was summoned, and I was on Twitter to talk about C++ from concepts to BitOr. Yeah. However, Twitter has gone to the something. Twitter has gone awry, but don't decry, just say goodbye, leave the pigsty, get on Wi-Fi, swing by to a place whereby you can reply. It's not Versailles, potentially it's sky high. Come on over to Mastodon. What? Okay, either one, whatever. But it was Twitter, we had this discussion, modern C++. With that, what is up? Where did it come from? And it was mentioned earlier, right? Maybe Scott Myers, Andre, right? That was earlier. Wait, Stroopstrup, right? And right there, modern C++. He starts talking about it, right? And other languages too. Everyone gets to have their modern language, right? Yeah, modern Perl. We'll get to that one. Other language too as well, and that is fine, that is swell. C++ has the lead. It was modern first, right? Okay, it really means that it's old and it hurts. That's why we wanted modern C++, right? It really is like more modern C++ than anything. And like a new language, you don't get to have modern, you have to have old first. But modern Perl looks like this, by the way. This is a paper. I can send you the link. It's 93% of paint splatters are Perl. All right. So modern C++ is old. And if you allow me to be so bold, postmodern C++ is where it's at. So let's see what is up with that. Postmodern C++. All right, we're really going to go. Shall we begin? Let's dive right in. The meaning of a container is the difference it has with the containers that it is not. Except vector, just use vector. All right, at this point, I need to explain a guy named Derrida and what he was saying. He made up a word, difference. Maybe you can tell from a glance, it's a mix of difference and difference. It's a word about words, a meta word, one that you may have never heard. I'll try to explain, I'll give it a shot. A sentence is words, some used and some not. Those not used may still add to the thought. Gasper, you knew what I was going to talk about. Same, we all planned this all out. It's all fits together. A house could be a mansion, a hovel, a nest. You pick the word more just right than the rest. Or it's all about jazz. The others being wrong define that which is right. Its meaning in fact is found in that light. A mansion is defined by how it's different than a house and how they relate to other words strewn about. Is that okay? If I may. Oh my God, there's code. Here's an example. I hope that it's ample. On your phone, if you touch and hold, a context menu may unfold, right? But if you scroll and then stop, the same menu should not pop. So here's the code for it. Let's take a look at it for a bit. This is actual code from a actual phone manufacturer once upon a time. Won't mention which non-existent phone that was, but it used to exist. BlackBerry. So here's some code. What do I even want to say about this code? Mostly what I want to say is, maybe it's all relative, but I am sensitive to double negatives, right? They are not the most communicative. Like, if not disable, did you mean enable? So much nicer, right? Enable menu is what you might say, but let's go another way. Move since down, right? Move since down. The compiler doesn't frown. To the compiler, nothing has changed. Exact same logic, the symbol's just renamed, right? Like it's the exact same. Beyond the rename, the code is exactly the same. Although it's subtle, the programmer has less of a struggle. What if other non-mouse code were to be so bold, also needs to be able to make the pop-up menu disabled, right? Should the other code change that variable? Like, I will also, for some other reason, want to disable the menu, so I should set this variable, right? Here, you would never think of changing that variable if you're not the mouse code, right? Here, the responsibilities are clear. Who should be touching this variable? This code is true. There's nothing to do, nothing to do. No thoughts to be had that would make it bad, right? This code is so like obvious. The mouse was down, the mouse isn't down, no questions, right? One part of the code manages state, the other part decides the menu's fate. We've separated the two just by changing the word. Other code can manage other state, then combine them when there's a decision to make, right? If you have another reason for the menu, that's a separate piece of state. In the past, I presented, in a past post I presented, I needed to say it that way. In a past post I presented, separated calculating from doing, right? This is the dual of that. It's separate state-taining from deciding. Okay, it's a work in progress, right? I'm still workshopping this phrase, but like you should separate maintaining state from making a decision. One piece of the code just goes like, I'll just tell you what the state of the world is. You decide what you want to do about it. Keep those separate. And what about this comment? That was all about like, blah, 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 why this thing exists, right? Oh, look where it went. It has been cemented with the code and the intent. They are now together. So actually I lied. I said that code was perfect like this. Yeah, it should have been up there. Yeah, were you? Yes. Yeah. I should have relied on you. I was going to hold that other slide there for a second, waiting for someone to point out that it could have been better. I said it was perfect, and it wasn't, right? Because it makes more sense to do it on down. But it makes more sense to do the code here, the reset here. But notice that it doesn't change the decision over there because you've separated them. This is why you can make that change and everything's happy. So this stands for? Right. Keep your stuff separate. That's exactly what it stands for. I mean, it's a Y, it's an I don't know. Separate calculating from doing, separate whatever, state-taining, something. I'll figure that one out yet. Separate state-taining. State-taining is a word, I'm sure it is, from deciding. Go read Dr. Seuss. He makes up words all the time. All right. The meaning of a container is the difference it has with the containers that it is not. Except for vector, just use vector. Vector is not list. That is the gist. Does that make sense to anyone? Yeah, sure. People on the committee are like people who've written vector and list. They're like, oh yeah. Like, I tell people at work that whenever I say list, like guaranteed, I don't mean list. Like, you have a list of things. I take this list of numbers, blah, blah, I mean vector, right? Like, it just always use vector. In fact, each container has its traits that define the places where they are great, right? and it's almost always vector. But like there's this one place that maybe list is useful. I haven't run into it yet. I've literally never used it, but it might happen one day. Yeah. Yeah, it's got stable iterators, but like if your code relies on stable iterators, your code probably sucks anyhow. Right? So here's the guideline. When choosing a container, remember vector is best. Leave a comment to explain if you choose from the rest. Right? Like literally, if you're going to choose list one day, maybe, you'll leave a comment saying, oh, we need to use list here because it's got stable iterators or something, and because I'm, sadistic or something, whatever the reason. And we can extend on this, right? We can generalize this to, if you are in the middle of a muddled puzzle that has you all fuzzled because a habitual pattern in this particular matter is not feasible, possible, or probable, you apply the habitual pattern, muddled puzzle, fuzzler to fuzzler pattern. Which means whenever the typical pattern doesn't succeed, leave a comment explaining why you went differently, right? So this is a generalization, is a pattern of itself applied to patterns, right? It's a meta pattern. So it's a habitual pattern, muzzled puzzler, defuzzler, meta pattern, which you could, since it's a pattern, apply to itself. So it's a habitual pattern, muddled puzzler, defuzzler, auto meta pattern, which means what, right? It means if you don't use the expected pattern and you don't leave a comment explaining why you didn't use the expected pattern, then leave a comment explaining why you didn't leave a comment to explain why you didn't use the expected pattern. Bruce Lee was also a well-known programmer. Right? The truth is outside of expectations. All right, back to Derrida. Derrida also is one of the founders of postmodernism. Like this, in case you didn't know why I bring up this guy, I didn't explain it. He's a founder of postmodernism. Was also the creator of deconstructivism. Let me explain deconstruction. Take some words, now turn them around. If one word was up, replace it with down. Does that lead to a smile or does that lead to a frown, right? What normally goes here, you place over there. You can do this with skill or without even a care. The point is to look at your patterns, take them apart, turn them around, and see what they're about. This was quite an interesting adventure when it was done in deconstructive architecture. That's Prague, right? All right. See, I know what I'm doing. Have a glance at the following instance. I've taken an idea and turned it about. It's become a wonderful idea. You'll agree. I have no doubt. Oops, slow down. An API is defined by the code that calls it, not by the code that implements it. Feels backwards, but is there some insight there? APIs are defined by their classes and functions. Not so, really. It's the code that is used at their junctions. Is it, insightful, ironic, moronic, catatonic? Anyone? Yeah. Write examples and tests first, I do say. Anything else will lead you astray. Write the code that's going to call your API before you write your API. Once API's usage has spread out ubiquitous, changing it then would cause a big ruckus. Also, Hiram's law, right? Hiram's law is relevant, I see, and of course the obligatory XKCD, which, if you can read it at all, just says once you've written some code, you can't. Like, this is the committee. We can't make changes because it'll break something, right? All right. Not understanding is better than misunderstanding. Wow, my notes say, don't read it, go to next slide. All right. Here's another one. We played with some words that are almost the same words. Should be balanced in meaning, but the equation is leaning. Not understanding is better than misunderstanding. How can that be? Does anyone see? Right? Yeah, it was just like playing around with words, but we came up with something. Standard optional. We all know standard optional. I can check if it has a value. That seems pretty good. Has value. Yes, it's clear as can be. And standard any can hold nigh anything. To know it's a value, what should we bring? What should we call? Has value. Someone said has value. Yes, I should always call on you. Standard expected. Holds a foo or an excuse. To check for a value, of course, you expect. Has value. Yes, has value. Oh my, it's perfect. Standard variant. V holds a red or a blue. The function we want is called? That doesn't rhyme. Doesn't rhyme at all. I said red and blue. The code to call is, no. Valueless by exception. Yes. Oh yeah, whatever. It's still the function you need to call to, So what does that mean? What, other than people in the committee, what does valueless by exception mean, right? Like has value, I know what that means, right? So the point is, if this was called has value, because it is what it is, it tells you whether it has a value. If it was called has value, you would think you know what it means. So this is a wonderful talk. It's a TED Talk. And it's all about how does it feel to be wrong. Does anyone know how, I'm going to spoil the talk, but you should go watch it anyhow. How does it feel to be wrong? Like you're right. It feels exactly like being right. Afterwards, you were wrong now. Like I could be wrong right now. I feel fine. But later, someone points out, oh, you forgot the not, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, now I know what it's like to be corrected. But what's it feel like to just be wrong? It feels the exact same as being right. Right? So once you realize I'm not even going to read that. Okay. Because I said it. So not understanding is better than misunderstanding. It's similar. So how does valueless exception work, right? It's similar but different. And I don't want to explain it. That's the point. Because you don't understand, you need to look it up, right? But if you misunderstand, you would just use it. And you would be wrong, right? So my API guideline is be consistent. That is the #1 API guideline in the world. Make your APIs consistent. If you do that, then you can unlock be glaringly inconsistent, right? I want everyone who ever sees valueless by exception to stop and go, wait a second, what is that? Should I be calling that? It's purposely long. It's like reinterpret cast. Like we don't want you to call it. Like, and no, it's literally, we sat, like, we're not joking. Like we sat in a room, like this is actually my name. Like you can blame me for valueless by exception. We were calling it something else earlier, but I don't know. I came up with valueless by exception. And we purposely like, oh, it's really long. We're like, yes, that's a feature. Like, we don't want you to call it. You should never know. I shouldn't have told you about it. You should never even know it exists because it's like an edge case and just forget that it happens, right? If you have a variant of A and B, it'll always be A or B. Like, just pretend it's true. Like, it's true enough that it's true all the time. You could code for 20, 30 years, you won't run into it. Don't worry about it. All right. We use the word foo to convey no meaning, but that is the meaning it conveys. Yeah. What's the meaning of foo? A function, a variable, an exception you threw? This is an instance of the ultimate deference. The meaning isn't here, it's deferred to somewhere, to elsewhere, right? It's like food is there to tell you, don't look at it. It's not where the meaning is. The meaning is somewhere else. It's the most postmodern word we have. Foo is untext, defined only by context. All right. I'll just not even explain that. Maybe I'll explain it later. Yeah. It's a reference. Either you get the reference or you don't get the reference. All right, another tweet. People make such a big racket about where to place a simple bracket, but why put developers in a straitjacket? How we write is as important as what we write. I don't mean to be contrite, so let's be courageous and talk about something that is religious. What is wrong with the first line? Yeah. It's in red. That's using your head. Yeah. Tell me your thoughts. I'll explain mine. Anyone? Just for fun? Nothing's wrong with that line. One if, two if, red if, blue if. Okay. So, these lines aren't disjoint. Where do you put the breakpoint? Right? If you're trying to put a breakpoint on that statement and not the if, that's the problem with that's why it's in red. Right? You don't want that. Moving along, the second one might be wrong. Oh man, kill me. What? Like I didn't do anything. I just stood here and like stared at it for a minute and came back.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Seriously. What's wrong with the second line? You guys tell me. Okay, my computer still thinks I have multiple screens.
Looks fine.
Yeah. Like if I still have a presentation running somewhere.
It's like a blank page there.
No, but I mean, it's this. All right. Okay, we'll do that. Next time I'll just like wake it up. Moving along, the second one might be wrong if you write a lot of Python. Right? All right, now on to these two from my friend Fabio. Like I had to say Fabio because it rhymes. Otherwise, I'm sorry, Fabio. Right? This one's major versus minor. Right? Almost one-liner. This is for things that are inconspicuous. And then this one is for things that need special focus. Yeah. So yes, in my code, I switch between styles. I let circumstances decide which is worthwhile. And I hate Clang formatting tools. Fixed formatting is like trying to rhyme everything. Sometimes it just gets in the way of understanding. Yeah. Who would do something like that? Allowing a variety of formatting can be something quite liberating and helpful when communicating. Right? So I can look at that code and think this is more important than the other part, which is usually, that's how I use it. It gives me one more thing to communicate with, to the user with. Just don't take it too far. This code won an obfuscation Oscar. It was written by this guy, Brian. Obviously, it calculates pi. The size of the diameter is the algorithm's parameter. Make the circle bigger, result in a more accurate pi figure. Yeah. So, maybe that's a little too much formatting. All right. All presentations have graphs, right? Here's, same thing. Turn your head just the tuck if you want to see the duck. This is literally a 130-year-old joke, all right? It's not my joke. Don't know whose joke it is. All right, slides. Bugs versus lines of code. You're right, right? This is not correct. The line is not straight, right? It shouldn't be a straight line. We'll get to that, yeah. Yeah, we'll get back to that. I think that's slide 88. Is the line straight? Yeah, line 88. Slide 88. Yes, for every line, there is a bug. For every bug, a hole is dug. Debuggers, profilers, sanitizers you lug. Some caffeine you have to chug. Add an if, that always works. Big picture understanding, shirked. You start adding ifs everywhere. But an if is a line, so an if is a bug. Sometimes all we can do is, all right. Okay, removing all that aftermath so we can see the original graph. Unfortunately, this is more what the graph is like. As you add lines, the bugs will spike. So sadly, the line is not straight, but we'll come back to that, just wait. First, I have more graphs. All presentations have graph. It's graph? Oh wait, that's a giraffe. Oh wait, I mean, it's a giraffe of height versus distance. Yeah, distance from shoulder, it's very accurate. It's also a giraffe of surrealism versus progression of the talk. And I warn you, we are here. Not quite there yet. All right. All right, how about back to a simpler tone, graphs per slide. We are somewhere there. All right, slides per slide. Yeah, yeah, it's surprisingly linear, right? Until we get right about here, right? And then, yeah, so yeah, this would be more correct. You know, you see how it goes. But I think now you get the pattern, right? All right, so that's good. Okay, I think I can fix that. Just give me a second here. Whoops, nope. Okay, screw it. Time for the ultimate fix. All right, let me just restart here. All right, so where was I? All right. You know, slides with graphs? No, graphs with slides. All right, I think this is, you know, self-referential. You see how this relates? All right, maybe this code explains what just occurred, right? You know, I used to work on projectors, maybe. We've had so many projector problems today, like, not unexpected at all. All right. So this class is self-referential. Maybe it has some potential. The code folds in on itself, but does it do it quite enough? Let's add CRTP to this stuff. Right? All right. So instead of this, we can have self. Right? We've always asked for this. It's bliss, right? Oh, slow down. Of course, it's never quite that easy. C++ rules can make you queasy. Yeah, right? It still doesn't work for like multiple inheritance and all these other things, right? But so many. you just a problem left for the student to do the copying and everything else. But is this grand? No, it is not. If you saw a code base using self, you'd be all what and what? All right. We already have enough paradigms. This is my manager from Adobe. I've used this quote many times. Having too many paradigms is not sublime. It really was. I was doing something different than everyone else in the code base. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like I convinced him it was better, but he's just still like it's just one more thing. Like someone could say like self, oh, that it works and it's better. And then you go to that code base and you're like, what are you guys doing? Right? Like, and we risk that with so many of the more we do meta things and like meta this, meta that, meta classes and all these things, everyone's gonna have their own form of C++, right? You're gonna go to a code base and you're like, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, the real code's over here and it generates this other, oh, okay. But at least as long as it's all in C++, it'll be fine, right? All right. Any more I want to say this? Yeah. If I saw new patterns means more to learn. If I saw this code, I'd be concerned. All right. All right. That is really a blank. I meant that blank. All right. Okay. This graph is back. What we lack is a tack that gets this code back on track. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It is not. Right? That's a Dr. Seuss. Wow, I see what I'm doing. Yep, don't want to do that. This is like Dr. Seuss copied off the internet. Wait, where did it go? Oh, I don't have it. Oh, man. Somewhere I had the picture. Well, the real picture is so much more gloomy. It's like dark and scary and foreboding, but no one uses it. Anyhow, forget it. Skip that slide. So I'm going to say that postmodern programming didn't actually start in 99. It started in 1951 when David Wheeler invented the subroutine. Has anyone heard of a subroutine? Maybe. So I found this amazing report. It's only 2 pages, very, very short. The paper is marvelous. There's things here for all of us, all right? It's not by me, so it makes me jealous, but I'll let the author's words tell us. A self-contained part of the program. That's the subroutine slogan. An entity of its own. I know your mind is blown. Here he says something courageous. Although you don't need subroutines, they are usually advantageous. You could just put everything in main. It would be, allows the coder to concentrate one section at a time. The rest of the program doesn't intrude. You can concentrate on each part in solitude. It's like you could code in a box. This kind of stuff will blow off your socks. I already saw my socks. And tested in isolation. This is a revelation. Such a fascination calls for celebration. This technique deserves adulation and replication. Libraries. Take the code from here so it can be reused over there. That is so useful, it's not even fair. And you can do this without pulling out your hair, except for in C++ and package manager. Yeah, which was hard in 1951, but today, nope, still not very fun. All the other languages have figured it out, except for us. Yeah. So, subroutines are bleeding edge, but they'll catch on, I'll edge. I'm really hoping they catch on. And here's why I consider it postmodern. I find functions are an underused pattern, and that is my concern. Like, that's the joke. Like, no one uses functions. Like, you write more functions. They must be new because no one's using them. All right. So, let me tell you a fable that's able, a bitchin' depiction, somewhat fiction, but a suitable rendition, a manifestation to aid elucidation, and a fine addition to my collection. I searched our code base for step 1 to get a feel of how our code is done. Here's a simple sample that we can trample. Step 1, do some stuff. Then steps 2, 3, 4, then that's enough, right? Do you really need to be ultra keen to put step 1 in a subroutine and give it a name? Like step 4 isn't called step 4. Like I took out the code, but step 4 has a name sitting there in the comment, ready to be turned into a function. The other ones are just called step 1, 2, 3. So that's why functions must be postmodern, because they didn't use them here. Right? Also, when the search was uncovered, some duplication was discovered, right? Like not just step one was repeated, but like the exact same comment. Mirror all the points. How many times must the same code be seen before you make it a subroutine? Oh, you guys are too quick. You let someone else say 3. You know someone was going to say 3. Right? Like, yeah, 1 is the answer, right? It need not be duplicated at all in order to be elevated to a function call. But don't get carried away. This comment is the same as the above comment. Yeah. Like, you mean, like, he obviously was joking, but this is real. He put this in a code review. I was like, man, that is, I told him right then, I'm taking this. I'm going to, like, everyone's going to see this, right? Yeah. Why is it so hard? Why is it subroutines that we disregard? Is it laziness? Craziness? There is no hocus pocus. I think the answer is focus. There's too much narrow focus in the wrong dimension. We need to widen our focus in another direction. Here's the thing. You're writing this code. You've got a problem close at hand. Your mind holds all its context, a complete map of the land. So if you were to make a function call, then you're afraid all this edifice will fall, right? What you've built will start to crumble. All those thoughts will start to jumble and tumble. You stumble and fumble, left there to mumble and grumble. But if I may, there's another way. With function, you put each small problem away. Then there's less things in your brain that need to stay. You're left with functions that each one does but one thing. And here's the advantages it brings, right? Separation of concern, isolation, focus your program without intrusion, and reuse is number 4. Reuse is in brackets. I don't care about the reuse one. Like, these other things are why you make functions. All right, this is the last tweet. This is the epitome of postmodern tweets for me, right? 2 readers reading the same source may see different values due to what they each read and write previously. And I had to leave lock-free off because I earlier claimed that you could not explain lock-free in a tweet. So, it didn't fit in a tweet back in the day when tweets were a certain length. So, if I was an English major, anyone take any kind of English, side courses on English, they'll use the word source to mean whatever they're studying. Like, we're studying this text, and they talk about it as the source, right? And then, 2 readers can reinterpret a book. We can reinterpret the text based on the reader context, right? Similarly, if you're a coder, 2 readers reading code, maybe their backgrounds make the source misunderstood because they're coders. But if the reader is a CPU thread, then source is a piece of memory whose value is usually a mystery when coding anything lock-free. So this tweet is really multi-level. When I wrote it, I was being very careful. There's 3 levels to this tweet. Onions have layers, coders have layers. All right. Conclusion. In sooth, I know not why your code's so bad. It wearies me. You say it wearies you. Everyone knows the Coder of Venice by William Shakespeare? So it's the opening lines. Venice was known for its glassware, so it's kind of like a Silicon Valley, or like a Silicon Marsh kind of thing. It's Silicon water. I don't know. Maybe this is the conclusion, but to really explain this properly, I think I need to go back for a second and do a quick postmodern critique of my talk, right? That makes sense. So let me just go just a second here to the beginning. Okay, here we are. Yeah? All right, just to explain more clearly. Postmodern analysis of postmodern programming, postmodern look at programming by Tony van Eerd by Tony van Eerd. So, why did the author use Twitter or Blue Sky? Why did the author choose this as his medium? Anyone? Anyone? Right? Humor? Yeah, basically yes. That's the real answer. No, it's constraints, right? Like you can only fit, like there's 140, then it was 280 characters, whatever your constraints, right? And it's trying to communicate at the same time. This is what we do as coders. We are very constrained of what we can do within the code. Like it has to compile, right? Why Dr. Seuss, right?
To proactively make the talk distinct from all previous talks.
Yeah. Yes, that's I was going to do Shakespeare. Like when I thought about it, I was like, should I do Shakespeare or Dr. Seuss? I was going to do both in case someone didn't like Shakespeare. I would just, if anyone asked me a question, I would switch to Shakespeare. And that was the point when I realized, no, that's really like that. You've gone too far, right? To have a whole nother talk ready in case someone asks. Sorry, you guys just aren't worth that. I have my limits. So, Dr. Seuss gives me more constraints. Also, I'm just a little bit crazy, whatever. It's also common experience, except for it's not, because a bunch of people don't know who Dr. Seuss is. But I thought it was common experience, right? And it's formatting, right? It's like I have to format the whole talk as a rhyme. Yeah, and I didn't realize until I gave this talk somewhere that not the rest of the world doesn't know who Dr. Seuss is. So my mistake. So good to travel, good to learn. Why graphs, right? Graphs that have no meaning to them, right? Because everyone expects to have graphs. That's the pattern. If you do a talk, you put graphs in your talk. So I had to follow the patterns. People expected certain things, and I had to, fulfill your expectations, sort of. And what about différence, right? It's also all about syntax and meaning and the context of the words, right? And what about Bruce Lee? What's he doing here, right? It's a reference, right? It's like references. And another one of, who doesn't know who Bruce Lee is? Now I gotta find this one. Does everyone know who Bruce Lee is? Okay, you don't know who Dr. Seuss is, but you know who Bruce Lee is. All right. I mean, I don't know how to, I like both of them, so, Deconstruction. Deconstruction is all about, also patterns. You look at your patterns, and then you try to change your patterns to see if something new can come out of your patterns, right? You get to question your patterns. Maybe you reevaluate them and go, yeah, that was a good pattern, don't change it. Or you look for new ideas, right? And if statements and stuff is more communication, more formatting. And bugs, now we actually get to the problem at hand, right? Or like a manifestation of the problem, right? Maybe not the source of the problem, but we got real meaty things to talk about here is bugs. And why, why? So again, it's a pattern. It's in context. This looks like a graph, right? And it's also ambiguity, right? Like it's nice. I love ambiguity more than most people. Just let you think about that for a while. Do I need to explain I love ambiguity more than I love most people, or I love ambiguity more than most people love ambiguity? I love ambiguity more than most people. You can, yeah. Right? And it's also to open your mind up a little bit. It's good to think differently sometimes, right? And what's the deal with this? That was just an error thing. I had nothing to do with this. Okay? But it's stretch your mind a little bit, right? And also be aware of yourself as you're giving talks or as you're coding, right? Be aware of yourself. And here we're getting to the point of hey, maybe we've got something useful. Is this a solution to our problems? And yes. But if it was that simple, why didn't we just say people don't write enough functions, right? Oh, wait a second. This is my meta-analysis is now making references. I should really explain all these references. So a postmodern comment about the postmodern analysis, the postmodern programming by Tony. So this is a reference to Monty Python's Meaning of Life. Okay, how many people know Monty Python? All right, Meaning of Life. All right. So the conclusion of Monty Python's Meaning of Life is people don't wear enough hats. That's the problem with the world. That's the meaning of life, right? But like, where do these references end? You know, I could just, should we reference the crappy Gabin paper here? All right, so, sorry. Let me explain. An explanation of a postmodern comment of postmodern blah, you know. All right, so this, to make a comment on references, I'm making a reference to a comment about references, all right? This comment was left in a paper where they just put that words there for, you know, as they're working along, and they're like, should we use the crappy Gabin paper and make a reference? And then they shipped it. They, you know, they published the paper like that. It got corrected later, but, you know, kind of, you know. So, you know, so that was a reference. I found that reference in a reference to this paper, right? Which is, of course, a paper on monads. So if you had the same experiences as me, you would get all these references, right? It's like, no problem. Everyone should know the same things as I know. How is it possible to understand this many references? Right. Same with code. Stop using pointers and references. Just use value types. It's so simple. All right, for real, conclusion. Our coding is about the context you're coding in, right? Does everyone else in your team know what's going on? Does everyone know the same stuff? You're always you're in some subdomain of like, oh, I'm working in the domain of pixels and projectors. Now I'm working in the domain of finance and trading, and switch jobs. And you're trying to communicate, right? And you've got constraints and format and syntax and ambiguity and patterns and all this stuff. And who are you trying to communicate with when you write code? One, you're trying to communicate with the compiler. You're like, please, compiler, I would like you to compile this code, but you're really trying to communicate with the machine, right? You're telling the compiler, compile this so that the machine works a certain way, and you're doing that because you want to communicate with the end user, right? So that you get results that the end user wants. And all while you do those three levels of communication, you should be communicating with your coworker and also future you, who will forget what you did, right? So like, as a whole group of people that are really bad at communicating, our job is all about communication, like, which probably explains why most code is bad. It's finally dawned on me. I get it now. I understand why code is bad. And the other side is kind of like, if you're more aware of yourself, like self-reflection, like when you're coding, you stop and think about what you're coding, not just, like think about how you're coding it, not just what you're coding. Be self-aware a little bit, be aware of other people, realize not everyone has the same paradigms and the same patterns, and just like think. And like literally what happens is, the reason I have if statements in there is because whenever there's a bug, you look at the code and you trace the code and you go, oh, right here. And you add an if statement. Like, that is the wrong place for the if statement. I almost guarantee that's the wrong place, right? But you'll be like, oh, I know this code over here. I can fix it over here because that's what I know. And it's like, oh, you should have fixed it over. Like, you're so focused on like the exact problem and the exact path of the code. You forget all the other paths the code could have taken. And you're just thinking like this with blinders on. It's like, no, whoa, slow down. So my whole thing is to change the way you think, period. Not just about programming, right? Like this is how I think all the time, right? And I think it helps to just always be thinking of alternatives and open-minded and like what if and what if and what if, instead of just like taking a path and never looking around. And I really think we all program the way we think, right? Like you're literally telling the computer, well, if this was me, I would do this and then this and then this and this. These are the steps to follow. And it's like taking your brain and you spit it out onto the thing. And so, and I don't know how many people can look at a piece of code and you go like, I know who wrote that. Not just by like the curly brackets, but like, oh, I know who wrote that. Like just, they have longer functions, they have shorter functions, they have like, everyone's got their own style. Because you code the way you think. So like to change the way how you code, because we all suck at it, like literally, we're all bad at it. We need to change the way we think. And that is it. Today is gone. Today was fun. Tomorrow is another one.